Thank you very much indeed, Madam Deputy Speaker.
Liberal Democrat spokesperson Steve Darling.
Thank you, Madam Deputy Speaker. And if you are lucky in the lottery of life, your pension can be one of your biggest assets. But sadly, we know that there are set to be 12 million people across the United Kingdom who are not saving enough. That's around about the population of Belgium. And talking more broadly around this scheme, there is much to be welcomed with this scheme. I'm sure the Minister had his best birthday ever by spending it in the Bill Committee. I'm sure as a 14-year-old he dreamed of this day as off the committee room holiday. But sadly I'm not joking. But thank you. So thank you for the audio description. But there is much to be welcomed, and the way that this rattled through at Bill Committee demonstrated that there is lots of good within this. However, as a constructive opposition and a critical friend, I'm going to be spending most of my time reflecting on where there could be improvement. And as Liberal Democrats, we still feel that there are opportunities of making sure that there's a midlife MOT on where you are as far as your opportunities of investment, and also a 5 years before retirement opportunity, and we think that could be strengthened significantly. I come from an area of sadness, actually, in respect of my own father, who saw the poverty of his father as a lorry driver and threw significant amounts of his income into his personal pension in just before the 1998 stock market crash, and saw the value of his investment actually become half of that of what he invested. And nobody would expect somebody who is a lorry driver to understand the full ins and outs of how to invest in the appropriate manner. And so I think reflecting that other people are living their own lives without necessarily understanding financial markets are really important. So further strengthening of this would be extremely welcome. Also, we know that people are keen to see that their investments are doing good, whether that is tackling climate change or cleaning up our waterways. And we've got some amendments on this. And as Liberal Democrats, we welcome the Minister's announcement today of the consultation that he's looking at undertaking to drive that forward. We also welcome what was announced on the budget, I think, as long ago as last week, in respect of the British Coal staff superannuation scheme and the carve-out for those. And I would suggest to the Minister that he should be listening to my colleague from Didcot and Wantage and other colleagues who, my colleague from Didcot and Wantage proposed NC1 around the AEAT pensioners, where there is a strong case that has been confirmed by the National Audit Office. And I would ask the Minister, with all due respect, to reflect on that and see it as an opportunity, again, for another carve-out where they have highlighted some real injustice, because that is what politics is about, is trying to remedy injustices. As Liberal Democrats, very happily.
Lewis.
I applaud what he has said about the AEAT pensioners' difficulties, and it is quite shocking that when a previous Conservative Pensions Minister, Paul Maynard, actually said he would be instructing his civil servants to work on a redress scheme, then with changes of ministers and changes of government, the machine carries on as before, even though a parliamentary committee did an investigation and found in favour of the pensioners and saying that they should indeed get redress.
The member makes a very powerful point, and I'm sure the Minister will take note of that, and I'm sure he will reflect further. I'd also, Madam Deputy Speaker, like to reflect on the proposals that have come forward of enhancing pensions for those pre-97, the 2.5% that the Chancellor announced last week that's now being laid down as far as amendments are concerned. We know that there is significant surplus in the PPF fund, and we do question, is it right that the government are balancing its financial books on the backs of this pension pot, because they are, the government, I understand the argument is that because it has that the billions that are there are taken into account as far as the government finances, it's not possible to release as much as could, in theory, be released from this pot to support pensioners with the cost of living crisis. So I would ask ministers to reflect on that. Colleagues have also highlighted in respect of NC22 and those pensioners, whether it's American Express, Esso or Hewlett-Packard, these companies, and strange enough it does seem to be companies from overseas who have left these pensioners out in the cold. One would hope that that consultation is able to pick up this, of given clear guidance to trustees of how they ought to be supporting those members. Surplus funds is another area that the bill addresses, and it is getting that balance right. And if the Minister in his summing up can reflect a little bit of that, of how surplus funds could be supporting members, but also oiling the wheels of the economy is really important, because pension should be about driving the economy, because it is this big beast that should be this engine for change. And the last areas that I really want to touch on is how it should be this engine for change. And as colleagues have already alluded to, mandation feels a bit like the cold hand of Big Brother on the economy. And whilst the Minister, I trust him implicitly in respect of mandation and says, honestly, Gov, it's not something I really want to do, but who knows who will be in his footsteps? We only have to look over to the other side of the Atlantic, the gentleman in the Oval Office, where there are extraordinary things that are happening there. I'm happy to give way.
I thank my honourable friend for giving way. On that point about mandation, would you not agree with me that while it's certainly advantageous to encourage pension funds to invest in the UK, would he not agree with me that their mandation creates the risk that returns on pension investments could actually be reduced? And would it not be better to incentivise pension funds to invest more productively through the creation of appropriate investment vehicles to invest in housing and social care, and encourage investment in British startups to allow them to scale up and ensure we create an attractive environment for investment?
Darling.
Thank you. And it's almost as if my colleague had just seen the next section of my speech, where this is a vehicle that we see that there is an opportunity of driving social rented housing, our high streets, that investment in our communities. Because we know that, that what we need as investors, we need to make sure that we as our institutions within the UK are the first, second and third investors in opportunities in the UK, so that overseas investors will see that we're backing ourselves and then pile in after them, and that is absolutely essential. So in conclusion, mandation, we will be, where there are opportunities, voting against this today. I would also like to say, just reflecting more on the bill, much to be welcomed with it, but still much devil in the detail.
Give way on that point.
I will, with pleasure.
I thank him very much for giving way, and he speaks very well to what's good about this bill, but there is room for improvement. I have a number of Gloucestershire constituents who were former employees of Gulf Oil before a merger with Chevron, and following that merger, their pensions, they were moved on to the Chevron pension scheme. Between them, they have hundreds of years of service that is not protected against inflation. Of course, over years of inflation, those pensions, the value of them have eroded significantly. So does the honourable member agree with me that his new clause 7 is a genuine opportunity for pension justice, and one which we might hope that a Labour government would support?
Thank
Steve
you.
Darling.
I agree wholeheartedly with my colleague and friend, and I'm sure that the Pensions Minister is listening. And after all, politics is all about calling out injustice, and he does a very good job for that for his constituents. Thank you.
Neil